Chairman, I'd now like to call up Amendment Cruz 5. This is one of the two amendments I've introduced to substantially increase legal immigration. This amendment is focused on the H-1B program, high-skilled temporary workers, and this amendment would substantially increase the high-skilled temporary workers that are allowed to come in. Let me note, I think the best aspect of the so-called Gang of Eight bill is the reform that is found concerning legal immigration. I think it makes some positive steps with regard to legal immigration, but I don't think it goes nearly far enough. And this amendment is designed to go substantially farther, in particular, to take the current cap on H-1B high-skilled visas from 65,000 and to increase it by 500% to 325,000. In my view, the top priority of every elected official, whether Republican or Democrat, should be restoring economic growth. And high-skilled immigrants, whether temporary or permanent, are, I believe the data demonstrates, pro-growth. They generate jobs. They generate economic productivity. According to a study released May 10, 2013 by Brookings, 90% of the H-1B applications are for high-skilled science, technology, engineering, and mathematics jobs. And there is right now a serious shortage of qualified STEM workers in the United States. According to the Society for Human Resource Management, there were 1.9 job openings for every unemployed worker in those fields, and there will be more than 230,000 advanced degree STEM jobs going unfilled by the year 2018. Immigrants, in particular, have a record of starting cutting-edge new companies, new industries, and generating economic growth. According to a 2011 study by the National Foundation for American Policy, 24 of the top 50 venture-backed companies had at least one immigrant founder. And indeed, more than 40% of the Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants or their children. Today, those companies employ more than 10 million people and generate revenues in excess of $4.2 trillion. Immigrant entrepreneurs start 17% of all the new businesses in the United States, and I would note the key to economic growth is an environment in which small businesses can prosper, because 2/3 of all new jobs in our economy come from small businesses. 25% of engineering and technology companies started in the past decade were founded by immigrants. And economists have found that for every additional 100 H-1B workers, 183 new jobs are created for U.S. citizens. According to the American Enterprise Institute, each U.S.-educated advanced degree green card holder creates 2.6 American jobs, and each H-1B visa holder helps create 1.8 American jobs. In addition, the data demonstrate that H-1B workers are associated with increased wages for American workers. A number of economists in March 2013 released a study that concluded an increase in foreign STEM workers of 1% or total employment increased the wage of native college-educated workers, both STEM and non-STEM, over the period 1990 to 2000 by 4 to 6%, so it had an upward impact on wages here at home. This amendment would also allow dual intent for foreign students at accredited U.S. colleges and universities. This helps retain scientists, engineers, and other high-skilled workers we train. Every year, around 300,000 students come to America to be educated, but are required to return home on completing their education. This makes no sense. It makes no sense that we are educating graduate students, PhD students in math and computer science and in engineering, and then sending them back to their home countries to start businesses there and create jobs there. In addition, this amendment uses H-1B fees for block grants to promote STEM education in America. The comparison between my amendment and the so-called Gang of Eight bill. The so-called Gang of Eight bill takes the H-1B cap initially from 65,000 to 110,000 and then over time allows it to gradually increase based on a complex formula to up to as high as 180,000. I think that is a step in the right direction. I think that is a positive step, but I don't think it goes nearly enough. I know members of this committee on both sides of the aisle are concerned about economic growth, and I know members of this committee on both sides of the aisle have had conversations with entrepreneurs in our high-tech community about ensuring that the United States continues to lead the world in productivity and innovation, and the key to doing so is ensuring that we have talent. If we want to improve high-skilled innovation, in my view, we should not do so by half measures. We should do so with a significant step that materially improves the status quo, and for that reason, I've introduced this amendment to increase the cap by 500%, from 65,000 to 325,000. We should welcome workers from around the world who are high-skilled STEM graduates that will produce jobs, produce economic growth, and improve the material well-being of Americans across this country. And I ask that the committee favorably consider this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I respect the views that my colleagues have expressed. I'd like to make a few points. First of all, it's important to note that this amendment would provide a cap, not a requirement. And much of how one assesses this amendment depends on one's view of high-tech immigrants. I think high-tech immigrants are an unambiguous good for our economy and for our country. And I think bringing more high-skilled, high-tech immigrants to this country generates economic growth, produces jobs, and so I don't think it makes sense to arbitrarily cap it at a low number. I would note that back in 2001 to 2003, when the cap was higher, we saw as many as 163,000 H-1B visas used in a given year. Under the Gang of Eights bill, the first year that's capped at 110,000, which would mean 53,000 of those that a decade ago wanted to use it would be told, no, go home, go back to your countries, generate the jobs back home. I don't think that makes any sense at all. I think it is an arbitrary low cap. I would also note that some have raised concerns about some of the additional protections within the Gang of Eight bill, and in my view, those protections are unnecessary, and they're unnecessary burdens to the H-1B process. But I would make clear, I would readily and happily withdraw this amendment if the proponents of the Gang of Eight bill would simply agree to raise the cap to 325,000. I don't think those protections are necessary, but the heart of this amendment is I think the cap is far too low. I think it will benefit the economy to have it substantially higher, and I think it will generate jobs. And so I would ask the proponents to consider that. I mean, I think the central issue in this amendment is, should the cap be 110,000 or should it be substantially higher so we can welcome high-skilled immigrants from across the world that can generate growth. And I want to say, just in closing, that the impact on growth that can come from STEM graduates is something many of us know professionally, many of us know in our families. I would note in my family, when my dad came 55 years ago from Cuba, when he first came, he was an 18-year-old kid and he couldn't speak English. But he came to the University of Texas and he studied mathematics. And he became a STEM graduate from UT with a degree in math, which he got while washing dishes at 50 cents an hour to pay his way through school. And my dad went on to become a computer programmer at IBM, and then to start a small business that generated jobs. That has been the strength of our economy and our country from time immemorial. And I don't think we should have an arbitrarily low cap for high-skilled, high-tech workers. I think we should welcome them because it produces economic growth, it produces jobs, it raises wages. And I would ask the proponents of the bill to consider raising the cap. And I would be willing to accede to the other provisions if the cap were raised, because that's the heart of this provision.